Oh, by the way, when I wrote this book, I sent a letter off to my co-authors of Winning Ways, and I said, last week I wrote a book. That was the first line of it. And then I said, since it overlaps with our proposed book, I think I'd better tell you about it, and so on. And I did, and then Elwyn Berlekamp wrote an absolutely furious letter back, which he couched in the third person, you know, if Dr. Conway imagines that so-and-so, I don't know. And he threatened to sue me because he thought I was taking material from the book we proposed to write and sort of appropriating it to myself. And so I wrote a letter back. It took me ages to write this letter back. But anyway, I wrote a letter back trying to calm him down and so on. But I didn't hear from him. And then I walked into the Xerox room in the math department at Cambridge, and he was living in California. And I saw him.
And you thought he'd come to get you?
No, I was very shocked. And he looked a bit sort of oddly at me and so on. And he said, I suppose you got my letter, you know. I got yours, you know. Let's call a truce or something. And anyway, we made it up, and so to speak, we've been the best of friends ever since. He conducts every now and then in Berkeley, where he's a professor of two distinct things, mathematics and electrical engineering. He conducts a sort of summer school on games. I'm not quite sure what he calls it. And he usually organizes a dots and boxes tournament and a domineering tournament. That's another game. And for the dots and boxes one, there's a prize of $1,000 for whoever wins the tournament.
Does he enter?
Sorry?
Does he enter?
No, he doesn't enter. The way he appears in it is rather interesting. This place is, this sort of meeting is attended by all sorts of bright mathematical graduate students from, all over the place. And of course, they're all keen to win this $1,000 prize. And so dots and boxes you see being played all over the time at meals and so on. And some of them are sitting up overnight analysing it or using computers to suggest strategies and so on. Anyway, that prize gets awarded, but then after you've won the tournament, you get the right to challenge Berlekamp to a similar little tournament.
For $1,000?
Yes, if you win that one, you get another $1,000. And nobody has ever beaten Berlekamp in this second stage. He's the sort of acknowledged champion of dots and boxes in the world. When we wrote our joint book, he didn't actually do all that much of the writing of the text. What he did rather, and what he's extremely good at, is finding out what goes on in a particular game, what you're really fighting about. So in dots and boxes, you think you're fighting about the number of squares.
What are you really fighting about?
You're really fighting about who gets the last move before the squares get opened.
The last move before the first square is taken?
Yes, essentially.
And that's a bad move to have?
Usually, when the first square is opened, so to speak, the player who just opened it is the loser. Every now and then, it's a good idea to sacrifice a square during the early part of the game so that when it really comes to the end, you won't be the person who opens it and so on.
That's quite similar to a game called Reversey, where you fight over the first person to take a corner. Yeah. And occasionally you sacrifice one.
I used to play Reversey with my daughter, actually. And she usually beat me.